This podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. Our friends over at SeatGeek are giving us a promo code of TBA Wrestling. That is TBA Wrestling for $20 off your first purchase. Enjoy the show. Welcome to Gunners R Us podcast, where we are positively Arsenal. And as you can hear by my voice break, this isn't Joe doing it because I'm not used to doing it because I've only done 4 or 5, maybe a handful of solo podcasts. We are here. We said last week it's becoming a little bit uneventful, to say the least, as far as making a podcast. We did the end of year reviews. We did the ups and downs. We did guessing the transfer window, all this stuff. And we said by next week, we need something. We need one thing to happen just so we can talk about it on here. And I'm going to be honest, I nearly did this podcast on Monday because we had one of the most chaotic Sundays of all time. Maybe in Arsenal transfer history. We announced Zubamendi, were close on Eze and close on Gyokores. Got still calling it Gyokores because I think I just like saying it. Viktor G. Gyokores. That will happen within a space of about 10 minutes. So we got a lot to unpack since we last did a podcast. We are close on about 3 different players, including ones we didn't expect. And again, with the transfer window, until they're in the shirt, or in Norgaard's case, walking with Berta into the front door. And we have seen a couple of those photos now. Even though it's not confirmed, it might get confirmed during this podcast because I'm going to guess that all came out yesterday. There's a chance we're going to get an announcement video today with Norgaard. And I did see someone online who made a joke, said, with Norgaard, I think he's one of these, you don't do an announcement video. He's just now in your lineup. He doesn't need any pomp and circumstance. He just needs, here he is. He's there, by the way. Cool. And I kind of agree, but I also really like Norgaard. So the only reason it depressed me slightly was I did see a video this morning of us doing all of this for Neto last year, the loan deal of the Bournemouth keeper who played one game and he tried to handle outside of his box. And it was like, welcome to the Arsenal, it's family. And he was like, oh my God, it's such a pleasure. And then by the end of the season, we're just like, we've forgotten about him. And we can't wait for him to not be there so we have another keeper. So sometimes it does feel a bit shallow, somebody, because you're like, well, when Eze moves or Gyokores or Zubamendi, there's a lot to, unpack with it. And it does feel like a big moment. Loan deals, I think they did it all with Sterling on that last day last year as well. And it just feels a bit hollow. But I think Norgaard, he's signing it looks like a 2-3 year deal. I have no issue with the big kind of entry into Arsenal. I'm going to not stop the podcast. What I'm going to say is, Lucas, don't rip. Lucas, do not rip. Good boy. Well done. I've made a makeshift bed in the studio for him and he's just trying to get himself comfortable. But don't look at me like that, buddy. Anyway, so we haven't got Joe here today. His car broke down, so he missed the Peppercorn Sports Card show last night and Peppercorn on iTunes and Spotify. If you want to hear the Peppercorn Boys, which is our kind of real-life comedy, silly podcast with Bruno, who's sometimes on here as the Man United supporter. But this is Gunners R Us podcast. Listen to us on iTunes and Spotify. Give us a 5-star review. Go over to TikTok, and we put up a video every single day, trying to build that following over there. So there is actually so much to unpack. I probably should have written it down, but we'll work in order. And I'm also going to say this because we're in the first couple minutes of this podcast. We're going to talk about Thomas Partey. And that subject is quite triggering for some. It is not the nicest. There's a lot to unpack with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it right at the end. So when the podcast ends, I'm going to say bye-bye. Then I'm going to do a separate one. And I got this, obviously, listening to Arscast, listening to Arsenal Vision, listening to what Clive and Elliot had to say, and Andrew and James, particularly James, learning a bit more about the situation, as we all need to know. So, if you don't listen to those podcasts, you listen to this, and you want to hear a bit more about that situation and the negative effects of it, listen right through. And if you don't want to hear anything about that, and you don't want to, deal with that kind of thing, because it's, triggering for you or anything like that, you don't have to listen to it because it'll be a different tone to this fun podcast. It'll just be a slightly more matter of fact, my opinion and just thoughts on it. And I'll do that right at the end of the podcast. So stay tuned if you want to hear that. If you don't, obviously just turn it off when I say bye-bye at the end of the episode. So That did happen this week. That happened on Friday. So we recorded last Wednesday. By Friday, that happened. A cynic in me would say that all this news has come out since then to maybe bury all of that noise, which I say cynical, probably truthful. I think a lot of the information that came out post that information might have been to bury it down the pecking order, unfortunately for some. But the news that did come out last week, we did talk a little bit about Madueke, which is still there. It looks like we're maybe 10 million apart. I think they want 50, we want, or it's like a 10 million valuation. So like we want 30, they want 50. It's going to end up being 40. When you look at Elanga going for 55, there's a couple other wingers. Off the top of my head, I cannot remember, but there's a couple wingers moving, and it seems to all be around that 50 mark. And I don't see why Chelsea wouldn't want 50 for Madueke. And if they're looking to offload Madueke and we're not the team that want him, I don't know why Forest aren't necessarily going for him, because he reminds me a lot of Elanga. He's a player that was maybe underutilized at the bigger team he was at, needed to showcase how good he actually truly was when he was given more minutes, more opportunities, maybe less pressure. And Elanga did that at Forest, and he's gone and got himself a bigger, not a sideways move, because some are saying it's a sideways move. I don't think moving to Newcastle for Forest is sideways. I know Forest had a great season, but the richest club in the world, they're going places. I'm sure the wages are very different. Fans are a little different. There's a lot of differences. But Elanga's going to do great up there. It does make you wonder maybe what is happening with their wingers up there. You got Jacob Murphy, we got Gordon. Maybe they're just stacking the deck because they need more wingers. Because I think it does seem a bit odd when you've got Isaac and Gordon, and then all of a sudden it's Jacob Murphy. And I'm going to be honest, I think Jacob Murphy was more productive than Gordon this year. So it's no slight on Murphy, but I think when you're moving into the echelon of Champions League and things like that, when you turn up to the big teams, if you've got Isaac, Gordon, and Elanga, it does give the other team more pause for thought than maybe saying Gordon, Isaac, and Jacob Murphy. And it's the same reason why they've moved on from Callum Wilson at the end of his deal. We'll get to more forward talk in a bit. But with that kind of price range being talked about so much, I think Madueke is going to go for 50 million. But I got a feeling that might stop us from getting him. It's so hard, as we did last week, where we were predicting the transfer window, to actually know, because we don't have all the bits and we don't have all the information. It's hard to understand where they're coming from, because we're all naturally coming from, we've known Kepa for ages, Zubamendi and Norgaard. We've known that for 3 weeks, some of them 6 months in the case of Zubamendi. But we've known those ones were happening for so long. It's gone very quiet on the Maresca one from Valencia. But we almost we've been talking about them for so long, and they've been we've been told there's been, Ornstein bombers and here we goes, and that we're not necessarily thinking about those ones anymore. So we've kind of moved on, but we have to actually get those ones officially done. And in this case, Kepa's now done. Zubamendi is now done. We'll talk I'm going to do a little bit on Zubamendi in a bit. Norgaard, I'll do a quick one on him just because while we're talking about it. Pictures did surface of him and Berta walking into the front door of the Arsenal Sober Reality Centre. Whoever took that picture, obviously, whatever kind of passes that guy has, he's lost them. I'll say that for that little scoop that we already knew Norgaard had signed. So maybe it wasn't worth it. But Norgaard is there. I think it's unbelievable cover. I think when you go from, I'm going to talk objectively about Partey in a minute until the end. When you've got Partey and who's 30, is it? Jorginho, 31, 32. And you're now moving to 27, 26-year-old Zubamendi and 31-year-old Norgaard, I believe. The age profile is actually going down, even though Norgaard is that kind of Jorginho age. As far as experience goes, the two that we were using have experience. But it was made in the Premier League. You know what I mean? Like, Jorginho had experience. Partey's experience was with Arsenal. Whereas Zubamendi's experience is at Spanish level and La Liga. So we don't know necessarily what we're going to get as far as how he's going to immediately bed in, which is the benefit of having Norgaard, is if you get 3 games in and he's getting bypassed and he's not catching up with the game yet, Zubamendi, which he's good enough to, but he might need time to just kind of figure out the pace. Norgaard can come in directly and you go, all right, let's settle. Norgaard's there. He's played 200 games in the Premier League. You know, he's a captain of Brentford. Brentford are a very good team. He can just steady the ship, keep the ball moving, some hard tackles, box to box, and go, it's fine. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think that's what the real. His athleticism is a lot different to Jorginho in the sense that he's a big lad, very athletic, very box to box. So he's kind of the fail-safe for Zubamendi. And there's also a huge fail-safe right behind all of this, which is Declan Rice, who we all thought we were bringing in as a number 6. He's turned into one of the best number 8s in the league, I think, as far as box-to-box, nipping in with goals. He's gone from 7 goals to 9 goals. Like this year, if we can get 11 or 12 out of him, that's an unbelievable return, because that was the one part of his game that people said that he needed to get better at. And that was when he was playing at number 6. So now he's at number 8. He does need to pick him with the goals. But he does also cover and he knows how to sit in. We also have Lewis Skelly, who sits in with the midfielders. So if it's Norgaard and maybe his passing range isn't at the level of what we expect of Zubamendi, Lewis Skelly's going to sit in there with him. And then Rice is going to come in and make sure everything's secure. So there is a fail-safe there. And like I said, depending on the signings we make, let's say Eze or Moreno is already there, Havertz is already there, you can drop Rice into 6 if it's all going wrong. And you can have Odegaard and Moreno, or Odegaard and Havertz, or Eze and Havertz, or Eze and Odegaard. There's a lot of options, which is kind of how you got to look at it. I think it's like such an adaptable team that if Zubamendi doesn't quite get up to it, there's a lot of backup. And I think that's why this Norgaard signing is actually really smart. So I'm looking forward to that. I would have thought it's going to be announced today. If anything like Sunday, it will get announced. We'll watch all the announcement videos, and then within 10 minutes, they'll be like, Gyokores is at the training ground or something. We'll get the double hit of adrenaline and serotonin. But Zubamendi did sign, and that's what I was kind of saying was we're working our way up that field, and these ones have kind of all been talked about for so long. The next level, where we get to Madueke and we get to these Ezes and Rodrygos, Seskos and Gyokores, is Martinelli leaving, is Trossard leaving, is Waneri going to re-sign? There's all these things that have kind of come to light in the last 7 days since the last podcast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just finish on Zubamendi here, and then we're going to do the rest of this completely on that front 4, who's in, who's out, and all these kind of things, and the stuff we've learned. Zubamendi's announcement video was really good. It was with the Ezra Collective. If you haven't watched it, go to Arsenal's YouTube and give it a watch. It's actually really good, and it's really interesting because Zubamendi is this guy who, I think we tried to buy him a couple of years ago, and he didn't want to leave Sociedad. He didn't want to leave the San Sebastian. And a lot of people don't want to, including, our manager was from there. We've got a lot of ties there now. Tierney went out on loan there. Monreal went there. Odegaard and Moreno are from there. So Zubamendi, as in they played there. There is a big connection with that area of the world. And he was very much a boyhood fan. He played for the youth team. He came through the ranks. He played for the main team. He's playing for Spain and them. And I think he's got to that age where Liverpool came in and he's essentially said that there was a certain fit he needed. And I genuinely believe on this one, and I know people are cynical about football, I don't think it's about money. I think a lot of it was he knows he's got to 26. He knows he's, I know Rodri's, he's a bit older now, but he's probably going to be Spain's starting 6 in an era where they're going to dominate with Yamal, Williams, Gavi, Pedri, the rest of them. They've already started to dominate. They've won the Euros. He knows he's going to be their main holding player. So this next move had to be of the level to keep him playing at the level that he needs to be at for Spain. And I don't think Sociedad necessarily is going to take him to that next level. So he knows he had to move unless he wanted to just go, I'm a career Real Sociedad player. And it doesn't matter if I lose my spot in Spain. I don't care if I don't play in the Champions League. I just want to be here. And I think he's hit that point where he's gone, I have to move. And I genuinely think it came down to the manager being from where he is and the players around him. He played with Odegaard. He's very close with Moreno. He knows Moreno very well. And I think he's a young guy who's, I wouldn't say, I don't want to use the word sheltered, but he's very much known one thing. And this is quite a large move for him to get away from home, go to a new country, into a high-level team that are going to challenge for the league, challenge in the Champions League. And he's not just doing it, he's coming in, obviously, after a bit of a scandal for the player. But not just that, he knows has to be the starting six, and there's going to be a lot of criticism. There's so much to go into that. And when you watch the video, you really see that when he goes to the medical and they say, "Have you ever had a medical?" No. You hardly ever see a player say no to that. It's because he's always been at the same place. So you can see he looks almost miffed. He keeps saying how his English is bad, like most Spanish people are. Like Santi Cazorla, his Spanish isn't as bad as he thinks it is. You can see him trying. He goes into, he's getting pulled here and there. Berta's doing a great job. You can see he keeps looking to Berta for like kind of reassurance, because I had quite adequate this to when you only go on holiday. You first get there and you're tired, you're jet lagged, you've been out and about. This stuff's gone wrong, stuff's gone right, whatever it is. You get there and you almost go, "Oh, this doesn't look like the pictures," or "God, this is a shady area," or "I feel uncomfortable. I wish I was home." There's a brief feeling we all get when we get there, unless you're just going to Marbella and you're absolutely out of control. But I remember doing it in Miami, and the windows were like had like bars on it. The area looked a bit shady, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward at literally 24 hours. We're catching the subway outside the door. It's absolutely fine. We feel comfortable. We're doing everything. But that first feeling is quite a scary one. If there's, so if there's people like Andrea Berta, getting him through that first bit of going, "Oh my God, I'm in a different country. I'm getting pushed here, doing a medical here. I'm running here, putting a show on. They keep handing me the shirt. They keep taking pictures. Here's the Ezra Collective. Could you do this quick video with the Ezra Collective for the announcement where he's going to play drums? You're going to look serious." And again, this is all in English that he's just learning. Could you now run side to side? Could you, take a deep breath? Could you spin? And at the end of it, you can see him saying to the Ezra Collective, he's like, "Are you local?" And he was like, "Yeah, I live literally down the road. I'm a boyhood Arsenal fan." And he's like, "Oh, okay, great." And he keeps saying "smashing" because the cameraman keeps saying "smashing." So he's like, you can see he's actively trying to pick up the stuff. And there's almost like a wholesome thing to the idea of this young Spanish kid kind of going, "I'm going to try really hard." You can see he's trying so hard. The flip side of that was obviously, remember, Lucas Torreira did not want to leave his family, didn't want to leave originally to go to Europe. We then bought him from Italy, I believe it was. He was homesick from his family that were in Italy and homesick from his family home in Uruguay. And eventually you saw what happened with that. He ended up going back to Italy. He ended up, he's done the rounds. I think he's actually back in South America. So he never got over that kind of homesick feeling, and he couldn't get past it. But I think Zubamendi's a different level of player. He's played at the Spanish level. He's won Euros. This is not what Lucas Torreira has done. He's sought after by Liverpool, Man City, Barcelona, Real Madrid. And to go even further with what I was saying about him kind of picking us, the way in which he's picked us is really interesting, because they asked him questions. Who's your favourite Spanish player of all time? Xabi Alonso. Who did Xabi Alonso play for? Liverpool and Real Madrid. Who's he the current manager of? Real Madrid. There's a couple of things he said. He thought, "God, Liverpool and Real Madrid wanted him. Why did he end up here?" And that's why I've come to the conclusion. He came here for comfort. He felt safe. And I genuinely believe that, because in the car, he's given a letter from Mikel, and you think that's Arteta, but it's actually Moreno. It's a letter in Spanish. He reads it out, essentially saying, "You're safe. This is lovely. This is a great family. Anything you need, I'm right here." He gets to the training ground. There's a video from Odegaard, two people he already knows, saying, this is a lovely place to be. We can help you find housing. All the, he's kind of explaining you're not on your own, basically. And it was really interesting to see. And I really think that is the thing that made him go, I have to play at a higher level, otherwise I'll always regret it. But I need to go somewhere where I feel 100% safe. And I think Madrid might have been out just because he's a Sociedad boy, and he might go, I can't do that. And he's always obviously been interested in England simply because Liverpool have been interested. He's had talks with them. He had talked with us a couple of years ago. So I guess the Premier League is somewhere he thought, if I do ever leave Spain, that's the only place I'd go. And I think it must have come down to that, because, I mean, Liverpool could have done with a tempo setter with Gravenberg and McAllister. Again, we really needed one but the thing is, I'll talk about it later, but I mean, we were trying to actively re-sign Thomas Partey. So he might not have known when he signed that he was going to definitely get game time. Whereas now he is the main man. He is the guy who's going to have to set the tempo, as the video says, and all these things. And yeah, and I don't know. There's something very wholesome about him. I'm very interested to see how he gets on with the Premier League pace. He's very Jorginho, and Jorginho is one of these that on the paper you look at it and go, he's going to get ran over. And what did we do against the big, athletic, strong midfields last year like Newcastle? We played Jorginho. And what did he do? He slowed it down and stopped them doing what they could do. Because you don't fight fire with fire, do you? You put some water on it. And that's what Jorginho does. He makes the ball do the work so that the players can't get in and around you and you don't stay on the ball long. So he could be a really smart signing. He's got legs next to him. He's got the fullback tucking in. He's got wide players like Timber going up. He's got great defenders sat behind him. Declan Rice is going to come in and help him out with the legs. There's a lot. We defend from the front. And the one thing that kept happening last year was we always got transitioned by our number 6. He would lose the ball in a dangerous area. For example, PSG, away from home, the goal that kind of did us in at the end. Cruyff turned at 2-0 down. You don't. You just play that ball back and we go long or we go out wide and we carry on. You don't force it. And he's not someone who's going to always force it. But if you watch his compilations, he does lovely through-the-line passes, vertical passes. So he's going to be great. We're going to need a sample size. We're going to need to see 10 games with him. I love these deals getting done early, especially that one, because he's going to be in pre-season. It means he's going to get up to speed very quick. He's going to want to be playing well as well, because he's going to want to keep Rodrygo out of Spanish team for next summer at the World Cup. So backup keeper is done. We can get through pre-season with the keeper core intact. Zubamendi and Norgaard. Look, Norgaard's not signed, but I'm going to act like he's been signed because the videos have been taken. So that's official. That's 99.9% official. So unless he failed his medical shortly after, but those two are insecure. That means they as of today, we're already back in training. They can start getting that understanding of the way in which the team plays. We are probably one of the most secure setups in Europe. It's fair to say. They have to learn that because Partey and Jorginho for 2.5 years, Jorginho 5 years Partey, they've understood the setup since Arteta's been there. It's been ingrained in them, and every year we've got better and they've got more understanding. These two are starting from fresh. Very intelligent players, very understanding. People talk about Norgaard becoming a manager. Zubamendi, one of the most intelligent players in the game. They'll get it. But they need to get it, and they also need the players around them that they're going to play with back in pre-season to really get that understanding of what they do and when they do it. So getting these deals done is really important because I do think someone like Eze, that's plug and play. He's unbelievable. He can turn up in 3-4 weeks and get plugged in there and he'll do some crazy stuff. Same with the likes of Rodrygo. I think he understands wing play. He does have an issue with running back, which is why I don't know if we're in for him. But we'll get to that in a moment. Gyokores, his job is going to be to press from the front, which he already does at Sporting, and just score the goals. So I'm glad we've got that the back, 8, and they are not moving. As we move up the field, the next couple things we need to talk about, we're gonna slowly make our way up now. Ethan Nwaneri. It's an interesting case. I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, Man City came snooping. It looked like he could be tempted away. He ended up getting a new deal at Arsenal, a better deal to stay. He then went on to play more minutes, and then this year played a lot more minutes. And when you look around, at this age, he has more minutes than Saka and Foden combined if you times them by 5. So if you combine their minutes at the age Nwaneri is right now, and then times it by 5, you still won't be at the amount of minutes that Nwaneri's done at his age, which is just unheard of. We didn't expect him to play this many minutes, and I'm sure his head's getting turned when you look at Doué, PSG going, Club World Cup right now. He's smacking in goals. He's got 2 goals and an assist in the Champions League final. There's Bradley Barcola. There's all these players that at a very young age are getting the chance to start every week and play at the highest level. Yamal, for example. I think whenever he sees himself at that level, I do and I don't. Does he have the ability to be close to that level? Yes. Is he at that level? Because we got a big sample size this year. No, I don't. From what I've watched some coaching stuff on it. At youth level, for example, I played youth football. At youth level, you can kind of stand and watch at times, especially if you're on the wings. If you're in the middle, you cannot. You can't kind of watch plays play out, and then you have these almost time lapses where you go, oh God, and then you run. There's like a delay. It's hard to explain, but he does that. You can physically see it in his game, and I think that's why Arteta prefers him out wide. You can get away with that slightly more. At youth football, you can get away with it nearly every time if you have the quality, the athleticism that he has. At this level, you cannot. And you saw it. I think it was Everton away. We drew 1-1 with that suspect Lewis Skelly goal. He started that game. Half time, he got hooked, and it wasn't good enough. He looked like a kid playing in a men's game. But there's been times where he looks unbelievable. Champions League, he scored goals. In knockout levels, he scored goals. He has that patterned Robin-like left-footed finish. He's an unbelievable player, and if he gets time, he will be at the level. He just needs to know his story isn't, he's not Yamal. No one's Yamal. Messi wasn't Yamal, at that age. He's not Doué. It might be, because, he's just turned 18. If he broke into the first team and was our first choice, number 10, in 3 years' time, he's still young. So I hope he doesn't get his head turned, because I think he's got Saka's old agent, and this is the agent that nearly got him to City a couple of years ago, and it was very awkward. I think it might be the same agent that Omari Hutchinson had, who ended up forcing that move to get more game time at Chelsea, realising there was 300 players at Chelsea going on loan and then moving to Ipswich. That's his career path if he does what he does. I think he is good enough, but if Chelsea are actively trying to get rid of 23-year-old England international Madueke, where does he think he fits at Chelsea? Do you know what I mean? Chelsea isn't a team. Like, if he went out on loan for a year at Forest, that makes sense. If Everton bought him for big money and said, we're going to make you our franchise, that makes sense. He'd go, I'm going to go become the best player in a couple of years. I'm going to get a massive move to somewhere. Chelsea isn't the one. And I know City will be looking again, and everyone realises how good this guy is. And I'm hoping we do too. I've seen some reports recently, they're saying they're very confident the deal's going to get done. He's going to stay at Arsenal. But it does worry me. If we end up with Madueke and when Eri leaves, because he might be seeing that as going, they're bringing in Eze, who's replacing, he could be coming in for the number 10 role. Therefore, that pushes, he's looking at number 10 going, it's Odegaard's, and the other side is Rice. So really, the number 10 is Odegaard. If he's not playing, who's he going to play? He's going to play Eze if he's here. If he's not playing, he's going to play Havertz in that role. We've seen Moreno play in that role even when Eri was fit. So he's going on fifth down the pecking order in that role. Out wide, he's looking to go after Saka or Sterling than me. But I kind of replaced Sterling. I was the backup right centre, right midfielder. And then at times he made Martinelli play out of position over there. If you bring in Madueke and Eze, take away Eze, he was still fourth down the pecking order last year. Now bring those two players in, he's even further down. But I just don't know if Chelsea or City have Savinho, Doku, Grealish. They're looking at Rodrygo now. Cherky? Yeah. They've got all these players. He's not going to get ahead of them either. So if he wants to go to a big team, he's at the best one for his development. If he wants to go down and go, I'm going to go away for 3 years, sign for a club like Fulham, become their main guy, and then get a huge deal to Madrid or City or Liverpool and be their first team, I don't know, then fair play to him. But I think he's showing you how many minutes he got. Shows you he's going to get minutes. He's going to get minutes this year. Each year, the development is going up and he's getting more minutes. This year, I think they held him back a little bit because he had to do too many minutes, and you don't want him to get too exposed and run him into ground. We saw it with Wilshere. Wilshere had his worst injury at 18 and he never fully recovered from it. So I'm hoping he stays. The other one is Max Dowman. There's a little talk that Chelsea are also interested in him. I think his dad's come out on socials saying, no, we know where we play. Kind of put everyone at ease. And there's also a video of someone asking when if we're buying Eze, and you can see his face. He's like, everyone's going, oh, he's smiling, he knows. One, he has no clue. Two, he's only smiling because he's like, it's a reminder of how frustrated he is that they're bringing in yet another number 10 to play ahead of him. So I don't think that was the question. The question the kids should have asked on that video was, are you leaving? That's the question. And I'm fairly sure he was with his dad as well. And his dad seems to know more and is closer to the agent, or, that's the question she should have been asking. So there we are with there. The player that we just keep referencing is Eze. This deal is worrying me because this is the one I desperately want. This is if you'd asked me in the last 2 years who my dream signing was, it's Eze. I think he's Premier League proven. There's certain players that, when you look at certain players in the Premier League and they're really good in fantasy. Trossard as well. When we bought Trossard, I was like, what a signing. Because if you have him in fantasy at Brighton, you're like, he scores like 10, 12 goals a season. He gets 10 assists. And that's at Brighton. And what's he done since he's come to Arsenal? Done the exact same thing. When Mbuemo is one that if Man United can finally get over the line in 3 years' time. João Pedro is another one. Points getter on fantasy. Chelsea gone and done, and you've seen what he's done in the Club World Cup. There's certain players you go, it's just a given. They're Premier League tested. They know how to score in lesser teams. This makes so much sense. And Eze's one of them. He's a player that I literally enjoy watching every single week. Such a flair player, such a added bonus to get to watch him. And I think he deserves the big move somewhere. He started his career at Arsenal, ended up at QPR, ended up at Palace. Come full circle, back to his boyhood team. I think there's something to it. Steve Parish, I said last week on a podcast that mentioned last year that he didn't know why no one teams came in, and they were actively looking for replacements, and then no one came in, so they just stuck with it, which means they're open to selling. It means they're expecting it. His release clause is, I think it's weird. The reporting's weird because they're saying his release clause is 60 million. It looks like Arsenal going in with 45 million up front, but I think the reason we're doing that is maybe the 60 million release clause is involved in, if you sign in for 4 years, it's 15 million each year for 4 years. And I think maybe to force the deal, Arsenal was saying, we'll give you 45 up front and the following 15 in add-ons, depending on performance, which they're probably more likely going to be excited about because of PSR and stuff like that nowadays. Having 45 million up front is probably better than getting 15 every year for 4 years, even though you're going to miss out on 15 depending on how he performs. So I think that's why we're doing it. There's no doubt other teams aren't looking at him, but I'm just hoping his heart is set on Arsenal and we're set on him, because there's also these contradicting reports that if we get Madueke for 50, we have to pull out the Eze deal. I mean, if they end up getting Madueke and not Eze, if we get Madueke and Gyokores, do I think we've improved? That's a good question. And that's without Rodrygo, without Eze, not losing Waneri, not losing anyone else. If we don't lose Trossard or Martinelli, we add Madueke and Gyokores, are we stronger than last year? Yes. Because we brought in an actual number 9. We've added more depth with Madueke. And it just means, basically, Madueke's replaced Sterling, which is a positive. And Gyokores has replaced no one. But we've got a legit potent number 9. So yeah, we've improved. Would we be slightly underwhelmed because of the names? Yes. That's not Arsenal's issue though, because some of this there might be no truth to any of them. So they can't really. It's very similar to when you watch WWE. You watch Royal Rumble and everyone goes, "Oh, did you hear? You know, this is a reference that maybe some will get. Yokozuna is going to return in the Rumble. Yokozuna passed away many years ago, and then everyone goes, "Oh my God, it has to be. Oh, and Abyss is going to be there. Abyss can't wrestle anymore." And then they get there and they go, here's Kelly and here's, who's coming to my head? Rene Dupree. And everyone goes, this is awful. It's not because you set yourself up for failure because of nothing based in truth. And WWE they didn't put those rumours out there. You've just created them. So, you can't get excited and go, like, for example, I want food to come to me right now in this room and I want it to be a steak. There's no chance of any food turning up to me right now because there's no one in the house except for Luke, and he's not going to make it, and I can see he's fast asleep. But if someone then came in with a burrito, it's like me going, oh, it's not a steak. It's like, we didn't expect Evo. There was no precedent to any of this. So that's how I feel about the signings. But it will feel, and optics do matter. Madueke and Gyokores, and we don't lose anyone, is definitely improving us with Zubamendi and Norgaard. I think we're a better team. I must admit, when we get to the level of 5 or 6 changes, and a couple of them being in the first team, I definitely get worried, because when other teams do that, I always think they're going to take a while to bed in. And that is the difference. I think Newcastle fans have this joke because they've just bought Elanga and they feel like it's the first signing in 4 years that's a first team signing, like actively to go into the first team. And when you think of Arsenal, I think we bought Reyes for the first team, but it took a while to figure that out. Other than that, who was our last first team signing? Like someone who we bought actively goes straight in. Timber was probably, but it took a year because of the injury, so we can't really count that. Rice that was bought to be first team. Havertz, I don't think the intention was to be 100% first team. But do you know what I mean? You don't really change the team often, and you don't do a lot. Whereas this year, we could be bringing in, for example, if we bring in Rodrygo, Eze, Gyokores, and Zubamendi, that's literally 4 players in, 4 players out of the first team. That's a lot to bed in. It's a lot of players. When Chelsea did it in the past, and you go, They've brought in 10 new players. Like, how are they going to bed in? And it takes a while. City have done it in the past. Talking to City, by the way, the players, they bought 250 million's worth in January. They're trying to sell most of them this summer to buy more players. Why are we not talking about that? Everyone keeps saying, like, oh, Man United spent this much money and they're failing. Arsenal have spent loads under Arteta and they haven't won a league. Cool, and City have won loads. But it's mad. They're just buying players like loans. It's what I said about when we got offered Watkins. You should have bought him in January for 40 million, sold him this summer for 10. So it was a 30 million pound loan deal. And it might go us over the line in Champions League. That's what City would do. They're literally selling players that they bought in January. It's just madness. So, Eze is where I was at. That deal is getting closer, but I really want something concrete. That's the one I think levels of excitement if we sign the players we expect. Let's say in the perfect world, remove everyone that we're going to lose. If it was Gyokores, Rodrygo, Eze, Madueke, Zubamendi, Norgaard, Kepa. My most excited level is Eze. Gyokores is next, Zubamendi next. Then I would say Norgaard, then Madueke, then Kepa. I didn't put Rodrygo in there because I really don't think it's going to happen. But his level would be somewhere. My excitement would be under Eze and Gyokores, but maybe above Zubamendi simply because he's an attacking player. But I'm very excited about Zubamendi. The Rodrygo one's an interesting one. It doesn't feel real. If the summer this summer was we bought Norgaard, Kepa, Madueke, and then Rodrygo, I believe that. But we've already bought Zubamendi. He's a huge, probably the best 6 in the world that isn't Rodri. We've gone and bought the most expensive keeper in the world, not for the price, but, he's there. We bought Brentford's captain in. We're looking at Chelsea's 23-year-old England player. We're looking at Crystal Palace's maybe all-time best player with the FA Cup win. We're bringing in the most informed centre-forward in the world. Surely you can't also bring in Real Madrid's right winger that's going to play left wing. I do you know what I mean? Like, a normal Arsenal summer would be we bring in Kepa, Norgaard and Madueke. That's what you expect from Arsenal. In a madness, every 3-4 years, Sanchez, Ozil, those are the reference points. You bring in Norgaard, Kepa and Rodrygo. And we go, oh my God, Rodrygo is unbelievable. The level of Rodrygo, of those signings, the summer we've just done is an Arsenal summer that's a madness. Zubamendi, Norgaard, Kepa. That's a madness. Zubamendi's unbelievable. We've taken him off of Real Madrid and Liverpool. But then you add Eze and you go, oh, it's a double man. It's the biggest of all time. Then you go, and we're going to get the most informed centre forward in the world. Okay. Now we're at triple madness. And I'd say Rodrygo's like not even quadruple. He's like 5 times madness. I couldn't think of how you say 5. Quad. And jump all the way to 8. Octo. Anything. Oh, I don't know what that is for 5. But it's 5 times, It just seems like the maddest window of all time. And then I do get into that worry of betting in. It all depends. If Eze comes in, I think that does change a lot because that might mean Madueke we drop out if they can't get a deal for 30 million. Which I don't mind. My personal thing is you don't get rid of anyone. You bring Eze in. You move Martinelli as the backup to Saka on the right. I think Martinelli played well on the right. And I don't think he's in the form to be a starter anyway. So just imagine he's Saka's understudy. Odegaard's understudy is Eze. Rice's understudy is Moreno. And then you go left wing. Trossard's the understudy too, whether it be Eze or Rodrygo. Then you have Gyokores, Jesus and Havertz up front. That makes a lot of sense. You don't lose anyone, but you don't have to bring Madueke in. And when you look at it, Madueke and Martinelli, same age. If you sell Martinelli and you buy Madueke, you're probably going to get £20 million profit. But I do think we're not as good. I think Martinelli is better than Madueke. I do think with Trossard, if you can get 30-40 million and buy Madueke as the direct replacement just for him, not on the left, just to replace him in the squad, that's a good deal. Because I'd say the money weekly is probably going to be the same, but he's 8 years younger. Maybe not the player that Trossard is yet, but I would take that. And Saka does need a real understudy. I would take that, but I do not want to lose Martinelli. But I also do desperately want Eze. So if we had to lose someone in the whole thing, it's Rodrygo for me, not Madueke. Because I think the room for the squad, keeping it as combined as possible, is you don't buy Rodrygo because you could start next. The first game of the season could be Eze on the left, Gyokores up front, or Havertz even, and then Saka. And then behind that is Zubamendi, Rice, and Odegaard. And you don't feel like that team needs to blend. And then the back five is exactly the same. The only new player is Eze. And if you don't want to do Eze, you could also do Martinelli left, Saka right, but Gyokores up the front, and Havertz is on the bench. You could also do Rice as the six and don't let Zubamendi start the season quite straight off the bat. And you play Moreno on the left and then Havertz up front. And do you know what I mean? So there's options so that first game of the season isn't 5 new players in the first team. Because as good as it's going to feel and exciting, the team that got us to where we are right now is the team. They're good enough. And at the end of last season, we sat here on the podcast. I think we did it at the end of the year before. We said we're one centre forward away from keeping. If you kept the team exactly the same and brought a centre forward in, we'd win the league. And we have to remember that this team was ready to win the league, minus the centre forward finishing a couple chances. We drew 14 games. Centre forward changes 6 of them. We win the league. 6 goals. We needed 6 goals. The year before we needed 2 goals to win the league. That was it. 1 goal. It was just 1 draw to a win. So we have to remember that. Again, Partey, Jorginho, that's done. We had to bring in Norgaard and Zubamendi. That had to be done. The Gyokores one has to be done. If nothing else happens, it's okay. We're good. As long as we don't lose anyone. But it would be nice, Eze. Eze's the dream. Madueke, there's not much movement other than the 10 million valuation issue. Eze one, I awfully worry that it's just online talk, all of it. But I think James from Gunner Blog is a very good one to go by because he does have legit sources. He said this week, Madueke, there's an evaluation issue between the two clubs. That kind of is reflected online. He got some of the Gyokores news. He actually said this week that Arsenal have open talks with Rodrygo. But for me, if we got Rodrygo and not Eze, I'd be disappointed. I know a lot of people out there would be going, no, that's the better signing. For me, it has to be Eze over Rodrygo or both. But apparently we have open talks. But now he's available. Why would City, Liverpool, PSG not get involved? He's a top player. And if they don't get involved, we've got to question why. And it's weird as well because there's a lot of these players that are coming in this season. Madueke being one is the opposite of an Arteta player. Arteta notoriously buys married guys that are super vanilla, want to work hard, do their job, and they like inspirational quotes. As cringy as all that is, that's what he likes. Madueke is not that guy. He notoriously took the penalty off of Jackson. Chelsea call him the most unserious football player of all time. Chelsea fans don't want him. We have to keep that in our mind, and that's what makes me feel like maybe some of the stuff there isn't right. And again, I did also say in last season we need a wild card, someone who isn't an Arteta player, someone who isn't going to play every game, but he doesn't play the Arteta style. He comes in and mixes it up. But for me, that's Eze. I don't think we need 2 of them. And even Rodrygo is another one because he doesn't do the work that. The reason we're so stable is because Martinelli and Saka work really hard. Rodrygo doesn't. Eze doesn't really track, if I'm honest. Madueke does not. So when you look at it, you go, and I don't know. But as far as the actual signings go, I'd say we're no further along. But Zubamendi got done this week. Norgaard's about to get done today, I think, to our eyes and ears. And I think the Eze, Rodrygo, Madueke, Gyokores, there's 4 players there that all could come in or might not, or a selection of them. But there's also Trossard, Martinelli, Dowman, and Waneri that could all go out. I don't think all will come in and all will go out. But I can't imagine a selection. I'm going to guess that half of the players that I said that could come in, of the 4, are going to come in. And half the players I said that could go out are probably going to go out, unfortunately. The percentage I would like to do, if we're going to get 4 total, 2 stay and 2 in, I hope the 2 that stay are Waneri and Dowman. And the 2 that come in are Eze and Gyokores. That's my ideal situation. In the perfect situation, I think you get 3 in and 1 stays. And that's Martinelli stays, Waneri stays, sorry, the other way around. Dowman stays. And then you buy the 3 players. And Rodrygo doesn't come in and you sell Trossard or Martinelli. Time will tell. Time will tell. But we're going to get to the centre forward because that broke on Sunday, shortly after. We've been doing Sesko, Gyokores, Bruno jokes. I still haven't done the comparison thing. I'll give you the comparison. And this, if you remember this time last week on the podcast, I said before all this, I think we'll end up with Eze, Gyokores as the two big signings, and not Sesko. And I feel better about it, you know? And I'm literally looking at a baby bath in front of me in a box, and it's got a Swedish flag on it. And that does, if that's never been a sign in my life, I've never seen that flag. But I'll put it down to this: Sesko is a 21-year-old who has very much an attitude and style of Ibrahimovic. He's unbelievable in the air. He does not take enough shots. He's got an unbelievable shot, but his stats show he doesn't shoot enough. He averages, in the last 3 seasons, if you average it, about 15 goals. The latest one he scored, I think it was 21. He's a very good player. He also has been, we tried to sign him 2 summers ago, then last summer, then last January. Every time he's either re-signed or taken us right to the end, and this could be an Edu problem, as we're learning with Berta getting jobs done very quick. He takes us to that edge and then doesn't. And the reports we're getting, again, these could be fabricated. He wanted as much money as Saka, essentially, that wage area. He wanted a release clause in case a big team came in. And he's also strung us along for 2 years. Jump over to Gyokores, who we really thought was going to Man United or somewhere like that. And this guy might be one of the most underappreciated centre-forwards in the world. And that's why I've kind of, along the way, liked him. Again, I want to do the celebration like an idiot. But I don't get how you could be the most informed forward in the world. And people are going, oh, he wouldn't, and I've seen this week Alan Pardew saying him and Calvert-Lewin are same level. Arsenal might as well bring in Calvert-Lewin off of free agency. I've seen people say it's the Portuguese league. We've seen he could be another Darwin. Very true. But Sporting haven't won the league for like 20 years. He's won back-to-back leagues. He's got over, I think it was 100 goals, 90 goals. He got 120 goal involvements in like 110 games or something. It's crazy. And again, people say he scores only against the smaller teams. He scores some penalties. We need a guaranteed penalty. He scored 100% of his penalties last year. We need that. He scores free kicks. We need that. I know Rice is now on him, but the other thing being, whoa, that's so weird. I just went completely blank. We need those goals, basically. Well, that's so weird. I went completely blank. When you do solo podcasts, if you go blank, it's so confusing because you're trying to think like, what was I actually trying to get to there? And then you have no time to think about it. But I don't know what I was talking about. But one thing between the two, Sesko's unbelievable in the air. Gyokores not great. Something we are in need of is someone better with their head. But the general consensus around Gyokores is that he's massively underappreciated. People think he'd be lucky to go United, things like that. And I've never seen a player who scores so many goals be so disrespected that he's not good. And again, this time next year, I might be doing a conversation like, please, we need to try and get some money out of him so we can get a new forward. I don't know. Is Sesko the future? Yeah, probably. Could Sesko go to West Ham next year because he went a year too long? Could do. Could he be Bayern Munich's next centre forward? Yes, and that's probably what he wants. But Gyokores is ready to go. And not just that. He dumped his girlfriend. That's just paper talk and it's hilarious. But he's also going to pay some of the fee. He's going to take, not a pay cut, but he's willing to take lesser wages than what he was originally going to do. His agent's done the deal in London, and it looks all good, but now Sporting have upped the price or something. So there's a little bit of a snag. There's a little fly in the ointment that we didn't see coming. And Sporting have been very awkward. Not as awkward as Leipzig, because Leipzig look like they just do not want to do business. But as far as the two go, one is 21, one is 27. One has a lot of potential. One is fulfilling his potential. One's great in the air. One is not. But one takes too many shots. One takes not enough shots. It's very interesting. Only time will tell when Sesko goes to Bayern Munich and becomes the best forward in the world, and Chelsea buy him in 3 years, and then we buy him in 6 years when he's 31. Only time will tell. But the only thing I'd say is we brought in Moreno as a 6/left 8. Never played centre forward in life. He got 10 goals and assists between February and the end of the season when we were playing the likes of Real Madrid, PSG. Man City, Liverpool, and all these teams. Not Man City, sorry, Liverpool. Havertz has played a couple of seasons and got 20 goals and assists. Neither of these are centre forwards. When Jesus was playing, he got 20 assists and goals. I looked like one of the best centre forwards in the world until he got injured. Something's telling me if we just buy someone who is half potent, we'll score goals. We joked if you brought in Vardy, he'd score 20 goals. So people are saying, positionally, statistically, I don't care. The most secure team in Europe will create you chances. And people say there's no room in behind. I can think of many a time where Havertz got in behind, Martinelli got in behind and was running from the halfway line, and we Trossard against PSG. The difference between us going to the Champions League final or not was people not putting away one-on-ones, not hitting the ball hard enough. This guy hits the ball hard and he finishes a lot. He's going to miss a lot, but that's centre forward play. Haaland, when they played Sporting last year, Haaland had 4 open play chances and a penalty. He scored 0. Gyokores had 2 penalties and 2 open play goal chances. He scored 3. But no one's saying, oh, Haaland's rubbish. He misses too many chances. Forwards miss chances. There's no forward in history that doesn't miss. And we will get him. We saw the stats. We create more XG than any team in the league. We're looking to bring in people like Eze, who's going to create even more XG. I can't see how he doesn't score. Whereas I can see how Sesko comes in and struggles. And again, in 3 years' time, might be the best centre forward we've ever had. But Gyokores, it's either good or not. And we'll find out by the end of the season. My prediction is, not my prediction. I've done a little side bet with Lewis, Elton Prince from WWE. We were talking about Wirtz and how much he cost. And I said, if he gets less than 25 goals and assists, that's a flop for that money, for where he's playing and the team he's playing in. And he said anything over, then it's a success. And I said, yeah. We'll see. Because will he get 10 assists and 15 goals? Time will tell. But I don't think he will. And I'm going to put Gyokores on the same level. Will he get over or under 25? And we're going to do an over and under coming up. Will they do this or will they not? Coming up in the next couple of weeks. But my thing is, if he gets more than 25, if he gets 25 or more goals or assists, he's proven his point. If he gets less, maybe it was a little bit underwhelming. But I don't see how he doesn't. 20 might be the better one because I don't see how he doesn't definitely score 10 and assist at least 5. Like, that's the bare minimum. That's what Havertz tends to score like 10, 11, assist 7 or 8. I don't see how he's assisted a lot over in Portugal. I don't see how he doesn't match that. Again, time will tell whether he plays as much as he wants to, because I can see Havertz starting the season up front. And again, I want Havertz in the team. That's the questionable part. Is I like Havertz makes us play better. So, and we need to keep him in the team because I've got a feeling he's going to end up moving to like Munich or somewhere next season. And I would love to get 60, 70 million for him because he should be. What we bought him for is he's only gone up in value in my opinion. But I also want him to stay. I really like the player. But that's kind of where we're at. Maybe next week we're going to even have even more to talk about. But time will tell. We've been Gunners Russ. This has been a solo podcast. I'm out of breath. I'm going to do the Partey bit in a moment. So at the end of this pod, I'm going to say bye-bye, and then I'm going to talk about the Partey stuff, which some people don't want to stomach or digest, or it's triggering, etc. So you don't feel like you have to listen to it. We'll probably do 5 minutes on it. But check us out on TikTok, Gunners Russ Pod. We're on iTunes and Spotify. Give us a 5-star review. Joe will be back next week when his car is fixed. And let's just hope for some mad signings and don't lose too many big players. Please, Waneri, just stay. Bye-bye. Hello, and welcome to the end extended part of the podcast. I just wanted to record this separately just because it's a difficult subject. Like I said at the start, it's triggering for some. And I want to take it as important and serious as possible. Thomas Partey got charged with, I think it was 4 counts of rape and 1 of sexual assault, which is awful. We've obviously known about this for a long time. There is 2 sides to this story, not saying his story, because we'll talk about that in a moment, but As far as the club, I think their hands were tied on a lot of it, and I think they've acted not great. Some would say awfully in other parts, and I'll break that down a little bit. This all came to light in 2021-22 when it all happened. Apparently, there was an unnamed football player, and there's a reason why he's been unnamed the whole time, because in the UK the laws state you cannot, while someone's being investigated, name anyone for obvious reasons, because obviously it could be completely fabricated or false, and you could destroy people's lives. People figured out within a day there was Thomas Partey, so it's gone forward with Thomas Partey, and it is Thomas Partey. The horrible part as a fan is we've had to kind of not talk about it and just avoid it. But he scored goals, he's played a lot, and it's been tough to kind of go to compartmentalize the two. And I'm saying that from me. And what I want to say is there's female Arsenal fans all around the world who probably have the same understanding. Some have the same experiences. And James from Gunner Blog did a really good. I'd advise everyone to listen to Arscast, this past episode. James did a really good bit. He's talking about showbiz. I'm in showbiz. It is a world where there is a lot of, what's the word? I don't want to say assault, obviously. There's a lot of unsavory behaviour that is very similar, that needs to be completely put to an end. And women are at the forefront of this. And the problem is, obviously, in the world, there is not another crime in which people blame the victim more. And only 2% of convictions happen at the end of these investigations, which is a systemic issue with English government or the world really. But you have to remember that, because anyone out there saying, well, it might not be true, if your best friend or your sister or someone came up to you and said all this, and even the other person was still found innocent, you'd feel hard done by and awful and terrible for the person. So just to be aware of that part, that, while people are throwing shade of Arsenal disgusting, of this, or blah, 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 it's like the victims are the ones everyone should be talking about and remembering and keeping an eye on. That's the important part of all of this. Arsenal have known about this the whole time, as we all did. They couldn't really... There's two parts. People are saying that legally they could not do anything like release him or suspend him. You look at Mendy at City... he played under the investigation. He then got charged, like where Partey is right now. They then suspended him, and then later released him. And then he sued them when he was proven innocent. When I say proven innocent, only 2% of convictions are ever proven to be guilty when it comes to rape and sexual assault, which is, like I said, a systemic issue. But either way, he then sued them for a lot of money. So Arsenal are thinking about themselves. What they're not thinking about is the fans, the women in the crowd, the men in the crowd, the people who have been involved or have been affected by these types of things. Once they knew that it was clearly, Sky don't talk about this stuff because obviously, again, legally they can't, but the crowd are booing every time he gets the ball. We all know what's going on. The players know what's going on. So, could Arsenal have suspended him? No. I think legally they would have got in trouble, because you've got to remember, if he was still an Arsenal player, he'd be suspended now. Now he's been charged. And again, charged doesn't mean guilty. Charged just means there's enough evidence to take him to court. There is no guilty or innocent yet. But that's where City were with Mendy. Mendy was under investigation. For example, Tottenham bought Basuma while he was under investigation. I think he still is. I don't know for sure. Don't know the facts. But they bought him while he was under investigation. I think it's 7 out of the 20 teams have players under investigation over the last 2 years. So sometimes you don't know about it. This one was very talked about. Why? I don't know. But now he's been charged. That's when you would suspend. And again, legally, it turned out that you can't even do that. But take away the legalities. People turn up late for Arsenal and they get suspended, or they're left out of the main team, or they're made to train reserves. Players like Ozil, they didn't want to see out his contract. Too big a contract. Didn't want to have him in the team. Sit him out. At any point, they could have gone, let's sit him out until this is sorted, or whatever it is. Could they have sold him? I don't know. Under investigation, Basuma was sold under investigation from Brighton to Tottenham. They had easy outs to go, let's not be involved in that. Let's have some respect for the fans. That's what makes me think the decisions the whole time have been selfish, and they've been football reasons. He's very good at football. We don't want to spend money on a six. That's the frustration. And the club haven't. The annoying part is the club have not safeguarded the club. You know, there's a lot of issues from the top down that they've made massive mistakes along the way on this. I know it's great. I know I've never ran a $1 billion franchise. The legalities, things like that. But at any point they could have said, you're not going to be in the starting lineup. You're going to train your reserves. Could he legally say anything to them? No, because they could have said, we don't think you're at the level we want you to be and your contract's too big. That's what they told Ozil. But because he has the allegations, he could turn around and say, is it because of the allegations that he believes aren't true and he's sticking to that now, Thomas Partey? True. I think they genuinely trusted the player, but weren't thinking the ramifications of that. Whether he's innocent or guilty, the damage is done. And that is the really scary part of all of it. And I think James from Gunnerblog, he's very eloquent, but also very angry about the whole situation. And he talks about not if Thomas Partey had re-signed, because this is the issue, is this isn't hearsay. Arsenal tried to re-sign him as of 2 weeks ago. A week ago, they were in negotiations. Negotiations died. A day later, he was charged. So I guess someone got information somewhere. They were actively trying to, it came to a natural end, and they tried to keep him on. They tried to keep the essential dark cloud that was keeping the fans uncomfortable, teams booing. I mean, there was banners and marches around the grounds at every home game from our own fans. They had a natural end and they tried to renew, and that was written on the website, renewing, currently in negotiations. So that's not hearsay. They had a natural out and they didn't take it. This is where I think they went wrong, because that's showing their hand that they weren't worried about it. They were going, oh well. Because guess what? If they'd re-signed him, do you know what would happen? He'd now be suspended. He'd then be released. And we would all hate the club even more. I'll be more angry at the club than we are already. So there's a lot to it. I know there are legal things. I don't know enough about the system. I can only go by what I'm hearing. And it is tough. Again, if this guy is 100% innocent and he loses 4 years of his career because he stays at Arsenal until the end of his deal and he plays with the reserves, that's also awful. But he could also have gone, well, if I'm going to train reserves, I want to get a move. All right, Fenerbahce, here you go. Whoever wants him. That could have been done. I think it's too trusting of a player, not understanding the ramifications of doing that to fan bases, to the women, to the men, in the crowd and around the world. And it came to a natural conclusion. We were like, phew, we don't have to be thinking about that every time we watch a game. And then it's been brought back up. It is an awful situation. I'm hoping they're going to learn from it, because it's awful. And I think James said it best was, no matter how angry you are at the club, it's not the club you're angry at. You're angry at the higher ups. Those higher ups are going to come and go. They always do. One's even at Tottenham right now. The one that was a part of all of this, in Vinay. They will come and go. The manager will come and go. The players will come and go. The fans and the actual club will forever be there. So support the club, support the fans. These higher ups and these execs who don't necessarily live in day-to-day life and make the best decisions based on moral, as we've seen with big franchises around the world, from maybe Apple all the way to Arsenal or the Dallas Cowboys or whatever it is, big franchises, they don't necessarily ethically make the best decisions. This has happened. But we support the club and we support the fans. So moving forward, that's what obviously we'll be doing. And the players, obviously, you know, if you know what I'm getting at, it's just the people made bad decisions. Those people aren't the club. They are people that work for the club currently and won't do probably in the near future as it constantly turns around. So, so that's what my decision is on the whole matter, or my thoughts. Hopefully people will start understanding there's victims out there and stop going, oh, you know, people rage baiting and using it as like, oh, this is why Arsenal are an unclassy club, blah, blah, blah. I get it. You're trying to jump on it. There's one thing that's at matter, and that is the victims of this crime. So that's the end of that. I'm glad he's gone. I'm glad we can move on from that. We can. Victims, other people cannot. So yeah, that's really it. It's a horrible one to talk about. And again, we haven't spoken about it on the podcast really at all. I know no one has it, but again, in UK laws, if you're listening to this in other countries, you cannot name him. Like, even if we named him 6 months ago, we don't have a huge listenership at all, but they're you're breaking the law. So it is a mad one because it's hearsay and it's not you don't know if that person's it's defacing someone, and I don't know. There's a lot to it, but that is my stance on it. I'm disappointed with the club, and hopefully we can move forward beyond that and make better decisions going forward and safeguarding. Because you can imagine the people that work for the club that had to work with him, and again, it's such an awkward, and this is why that crime is such a scary crime and a scary kind of thing is you could avoid that person because you can't stand them now, but then they're found innocent. But like I said, 2% of crimes, he could be found. He most likely is going to be found innocent. Does it mean he did it? I don't know. That's what with this one is really tough to get your head around. But anyway, hopefully that's the last we'll ever talk about that. We'll be back next week. Guns Trust podcast. Joe will be back. Give us a 5-star review, all that kind of stuff, and we'll be back next week. Bye.